Hey guys, welcome to Little Grape Garage. This here behind me is a 1985 50cc 2-stroke TE General Moped from way back in the day, actually almost exactly 40 years ago. This thing was the newest moped out, and it is one of the mopeds that you actually have to pedal to start, and there's a clutch to engage. And some guy actually gave this to me and my brothers to have fun with and fix and ride around. So a huge thank you to you for giving this to us. But ever since we got it, it has had a few issues. One, the carburetor got completely out of tune. It rattled itself loose and messed everything up. And our clutch is stuck partly engaged, which is causing the motor to turn over when it's supposed to just be rolling, which is causing stress on the motor, which keeps stalling it. And we have not been able to get this thing to run for months now. So we're going to do a little revival here. I have a brand new carburetor for this thing off of Amazon. It was like 30 bucks. But I think it's going to be better than what's on it because it actually has like one of the adapters, because this carburetor keeps falling off the intake. But we're going to get right into it. Let's tear this old one off. I'll show you guys the new one, and let's see if this thing will fire up and take it for a rip. So you guys can actually see how loose this carburetor is, and it's fully tightened down. It's because there's a little adapter that's supposed to clamp onto the intake, and this didn't have that, it didn't look like. So we just used some tape to try to hold it stuck onto the intake, but that didn't really work, which is why we're having these issues. I'm going to pull off this fuel line, which I need both hands for, unscrew this throttle, slide this thing off, and pop our new one back on. So this here is our little throttle slide. That's actually the slide right there. I'm going to pop our fuel line off like that. I didn't even mean to do that. And now we have our fuel line disconnected from this old carburetor. We should be able to just shimmy this off. I might have to loosen the clamp a little bit, but we're going to loosen that, and then this thing should pop right off. So I'm going to loosen the clamp from over here. It's kind of a weird spot to put a clamp this important because the frame is right here, so I think that's not the best design ever, but it'll do for now. And look at that. Got our old carburetor off. And this is that sealer stuff I was telling you guys about, because the carburetor fully tightened onto this intake right here still was pretty loose and it wasn't fitting the best. So I'm going to go throw this old piece of junk away, and then I'll show you guys our new one, and then we're also going to swap out our spark plug with the new one that came with the Amazon kit. Oh yeah, that's not looking good. One side is full of rust and oil, and the other one is clean. And that's most likely because this cylinder goes sideways. So if any oil is sitting in the cylinder, it sits at the bottom, which is where that spark plug is sitting. So this just kind of soaks around in that little puddle of oil or fuel. But I'm going to go grab a new spark plug, throw that in, and we'll get to work on our carburetor. So this is our little kit here. Instead of that old crusty air filter cover thing that's cracked and stripped, we got this nice blue one. I was going to get either black or red, but those weren't going to be here in time until today, actually. And I thought I was going to film this earlier, so I got the blue one because this one was going to be here sooner. But I ended up not even being able to film this until the day the other colors were supposed to arrive. So blue might not look the best, but if it runs and works, that's a win, I think. Here's our new carburetor, the exact same thing, literally just new. So we have that. This is for our throttle, a little bit different design than the old one, but that'll work the same. So let's throw this spark plug into this motor here, and then we'll get to mounting our carburetor. I noticed that there's a little bit of a difference in the design in these two spark plugs. This is the one that came in it, which I'm assuming is maybe the original. I don't know if this company is still a thing, Bosch, Germany, which I don't know where this came from, but it might be Germany, honestly. So they have the same threads. It's just this one is shorter. So we're going to try to mount this one up. But if it's not running, I actually am going to switch these back, because this one has the same type of threads, but this one has longer threads. This one doesn't, and that can actually affect the way and the timing of the motor and which way it fires. So if it does not run with this new carb, I definitely know that that's the issue. It's not that so tight. We can pop our boot back on here. Alright, so this thing is actually not fitting that good at all. So we're just going to clean this one up with some brake cleaner or carb cleaner real fast, and we're going to throw this one back in there. Because we're using the old spark plug, I'm actually going to do a spark test real fast. I don't have my tripod, so I'm not going to be able to film it. But basically, I'm just going to turn over the motor and look for a little spark between that little gap there on the plug. Alright, we had a really good spark. We're going to pop this off the boot there. We're going to tighten this thing into the motor, and then we're going to throw in our carb. Alright, spark plug's on. Let's get our throttle connected and then pop this thing on there. Alright, we just got this thing all finished up. I got the carburetor nice and tight. I got the new air filter on, new fuel line fed, throttle cable connected. We're going to turn on the gas. You can see it entering there. Oh, and we have a leak, actually. It is leaking out this fuel line. So I'm going to slide that fuel line up more, and then we'll see if this thing will fire up. Alright, I just got the fuel line slid up the thing more. Let's turn this on and see. Still leaking. Alright, let's see if this leaks. There we go. So now we have no leaks. We have the new fuel line connected, going right here to the fuel thing. New air filter on, new carb on, and the only thing I don't like about it is the throttle doesn't really return, so you have to push it back yourself. But the throttle does work, so I guess it's better than nothing. But I'm going to set up the camera, and it's time to see if this thing will fire up after sitting for months. Alright, here we go. It's running really good, actually. It sounds great. Alright, let's go rip this thing around and see if it works. So we're in the junkyard and I ran out of gas, but this thing runs 1,000 times better than it used to. It fires up right away. Even when it... Oh, we didn't run out of gas, I don't think. Our spark plug boot is off. Oh, hold on, we might be good. Hold on, let me see if this thing will fire up real fast. So the spark plug boot was not the issue, even though it was barely connected. We are completely out of gas, we don't have any more. But this thing runs, like I was saying, 1,000 times better. When it had the old carburetor, it would barely even start if you were pedaling as fast as you could. And now it fires up right away. The throttle actually does somewhat return when it's running, and it looks way better than it used to. So I definitely think that was a win with replacing the carburetor. And it's a nice little camera rig, I guess you could call it, if I wanted to film somebody riding something or somebody film me riding. Well, I think that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and I'll see you guys in the next video.